Hi, this is Gretchen Mina. This is my oral presentation on the 2012 film The Attack. First, I'm going to talk about Ali Suleiman, the main character, who plays Amin in the film. He was also in Paradise Now. He was one of the main characters as well. He played Khalid, and I really enjoy his acting style and his films that he's in. I think he's emotionally a very strong actor, which is represented in both films. He does an excellent job in his role as Amin. He reflects the stages of grief after losing his wife and shows almost an unbiased opinion or representation of the damages done on both sides of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. This is shown not only by his time spent in Tel Aviv after his wife had committed the suicide bombing, but also when he travels to Nablus and Jenin and sees kind of the damages done on both sides, not necessarily reflecting one side as being better than the other, but showing them more as both groups have done horrible things to each other, and they have somewhat justified reasons for what they're doing, but they can't figure out how to actually pick a side or pick a way to conclude this that doesn't end in more violence. So thematically, the backdrop of this entire film is the Palestine-Israeli conflict, and this is obviously a very prominent issue in today's society, in film, in TV series, in other issues across the world, and it brings up a lot of questions on how you can create peaceful nations when there is so much conflict going on, not only from recent political strife or previous wars, but mainly when it comes into religion, which is another thematic device used in the film. So Amin is an Arab Israeli. There's not really too much said about his religion, whereas his wife is Christian, and there's the backdrop of a very large Jewish community in Tel Aviv, and also a very large Muslim community in Palestine and Nablus, where part of the film takes place. So religion plays a very large role in this film on top of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, which creates not only a divide between characters, but also a general divide in the film. There's a very select period of time where Amin is spends his time in Tel Aviv, and another time where he is in Palestine, where the divide is very set. There are strict borders, also as shown in the film, with the borders put up between Israel and Palestine. This not only creates a division within the film, but also a division within the character Amin. He has lived in Tel Aviv and in Israel for a very long time. His job is in Tel Aviv. He trusts the people around him. He is given multiple awards and grants for what he has done. And it shows the tolerance of the people in Tel Aviv, letting an Arab person into their higher circles, into places of trust, and it shows it shows not only their tolerance, but their willingness to accept someone as long as they follow their rules, follow their jurisdictions, live like they do. And that naturally creates a divide between Amin's life, his personal life, but also where he comes from. Amin is naturally an Arab citizen, so he has that constant connection to the Arab population, his family who live in Nablus, and that not only creates a divide within Amin, but between his marriage as well. His wife, Sahim, is the suicide bomber in the film, and he doesn't naturally understand why she would have done this, why she would have killed innocent people, until he travels between Tel Aviv, Nablus, and Jenin. Jenin is very important in this film because it's where his wife came to the realization that she would need to commit a suicide bombing or commit some act of violence in order to properly get her point across. And as Amin travels there, he also comes to this realization of why she had done this, but he is not brought to the same point as she was. One of the points that I brought up was trust, which is another thematic device used, mainly trust or lack thereof. So Amin naturally trusts his wife. He believes she could have never done this in the beginning of the film, and he is supposed to also trust the police and trust the members of government who have told him, yes, your wife committed this, there's no other way it had happened, and he has to either trust in the love he has for his wife or trust in the law enforcement officers and those around him. In the end, it does come to the realization that his wife was the suicide bomber, which not only breaks him down emotionally, but somewhat breaks down his trust of those around him. So he is emotionally very distraught because the person he had been married to for such a long time had gone and committed an act that is seen as horrible and utterly atrocious in Israeli society, but he also has to deal with the love that he has for her, and that kind of breaks down his trust of both sides, not only his friends who are in Israel, but of his family who is in Palestine. Another thematic device used was hiding one's true identity or true intentions in a situation. This mainly refers to Sahim, Amin's wife, where she hid her true intentions with the suicide bombing and working with the Palestinians, and also somewhat of Amin, who hides parts of his Arab identity so he can fit in better with the Israelis in Tel Aviv. He hides this part of him, not because he's necessarily ashamed, but it works more towards his advantage to fit in more with the Israelis in his line of work. All of these thematic devices are greatly displayed by Ali Suleiman, who is a very emotionally strong actor. He was also in the film Paradise Now, and he does a very good job at portraying these characters that are going through difficult situations in a time and a way of life where there is conflict constantly and there is everyday challenges that are faced by both Palestinians and Israelis. Lastly, I'm going to give my personal opinion. I really enjoyed this film. I thought it was great. It was very thought-provoking. It made me remember a time when I was in not a similar situation, but in a similar way of thinking when I lived just south of Boston. The Boston Marathon bombing put me in a very difficult situation of understanding how could someone do this to a large group of people who are innocent? How could someone hurt innocent people like this? And I brought up a lot of thought-provoking questions that I remembered as I was watching this film. Thank you so much.